Okay, everybody, we're about to start the session. If you're coming, please take a seat now. Thank you.
I think we're up and live again. Okay, folks, if I could just have your attention, please. We're about to kick off the next session. Just a quick reminder to everybody that these sessions work particularly well when there's lots and lots of questions coming up to into the system through Slido. So please fire them up and we'll have a good session. So look, just to kick things off, I think we'll get underway with our first speaker, Nathan Harrison, General Manager of Sales, Bondor, New Zealand. Please welcome Nathan. All yours, Nathan. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. Right, use it. Right, the dreaded speaking slot straight after lunch. I know it's a hard time to stay awake, so bear with me. I'll try and keep this short and sweet, and hopefully you might find something interesting. Good afternoon. My name is Nathan Harrison, General Manager of Sales at Bondor. First of all, I'll just give a quick plug to Bondor. Bondor is the only manufacturer, supplier, and installation contractor of insulated panel in New Zealand. So we offer back-to-back warranties on materials and workmanship. We've been supporting the cold storage industry now for just over 60 years. And fun fact, the first Bondor panel line in New Zealand was in Dunedin, of all places, in 1964. The Bondor brand is well known in the industry. We have some long-serving personnel within the business with plenty of experience. I've been with the company for just over 4 years, but I've been in the industry, in and around the industry, for about 17. This is by no means a sales pitch, but I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we have got experienced people in the business. We do know what we're talking about when it comes to insulated panel. So what am I going to chat to you guys about today? Well, when I got given the news that I would be presenting in front of 250 people, I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what I was going to talk about. First of all, I didn't want it to sound like a big sales pitch because that never goes down well in this environment. And I didn't want it to be too boring because, let's be honest, panel is pretty boring. Big white walls, blank canvas, no colour. But when it comes to cold storage facilities, it is one of the key components to keeping everything cold. Because it is very important, we need to look after it. And one of the key roles of insulated panels is to create a vapour barrier. So for the next 5 or so minutes, I'm going to do my best to educate you all on this topic, and hopefully in an easy way to understand. Okay, so what is a vapour barrier? A vapour barrier is any material that prevents air from passing through it. In the cold storage industry, a vapour barrier includes materials like insulated panel steel skins of the poly panel, steel flashings and aluminium extrusions, silicon and mastic sealants, vapour barrier tape, polythene plastic, and rubber gaskets. These materials are used to stop moist air from finding its way into your cold storage space. Why do we need vapour barriers? Cool stores and cold stores operate with a low internal temperature and most of the time low humidity as well. And the outside environment is usually warmer and more humid. That temperature and humidity difference creates a natural vapour pressure gradient. So if there is a pathway through the vapour barrier, you can guarantee that the outside warm air will find its way into the cold room. Hence why it is crucial to have a good quality vapour barrier in place to stop the outside moist air from migrating into the cold storage space and condensing. Okay, so in our industry, where do we use vapour barriers? It's always on the warm side of the panel, which is always on the external side here in New Zealand. So materials like the external skin of the panel, the flashings, the sealants and the tapes. We use it under concrete slabs, so the vapour barrier will typically be a polythene plastic under the concrete slabs. Around doors, you'll see rubber gaskets, and then around penetrations, it will be a combination of expanding foam, flashing, sealants, tapes and membrane. What happens when a vapour barrier is compromised? Because of the different pressures on each side of the vapour barrier, the warm, humid air from the outside of the room will be forced into the colder space through small gaps and cracks in that vapour barrier. In chillers, the warm, humid air will meet the colder internal environment and condensate, and water will form inside the room. In freezers, the warm air will migrate into the room and condensate, and that water will turn to ice, being in a freezer. If a cold storage facility has a vapour barrier issue, it could result in things like health and safety issues, like slips and falls, hygiene and food safety risks, increased energy costs because the refrigeration is having to work harder to keep that room at temperature. The panel damage can also occur, and you can get mould growth. It is important to note, though, it doesn't matter what type of panel you use, if the vapour barrier is compromised, you will get these issues occurring. Right, so here's some real-life vapour barrier issues out in the field. This here is a classic case of a manual freezer sliding door that doesn't get closed when forklifts go in and out of it. The warm air from the outside of the freezer comes rushing into the room, the hot air rises, the cold hits it, and then the white snowy ice is formed from condensation forming on the metal surfaces. In this example here, there was a bad case of frost heave, which meant the concrete floor slab inside the freezer was forced up by the ice, and the panel wall pushed the roof up and caused a break in the vapour barrier. In that top right hand corner, you can see clear daylight coming through at the wall roof junction. In this couple of photos here, there was an extension added to a large freezer, and the vapour barrier between the old and the new freezer was compromised. The roof was exposed, so not only was warm air getting in, but it was also rain water was getting in as well, and that's why the stalactites were forming on the roof structure. The wall we're looking at in this photo is a freezer. It's a freezer wall, and prior to the crash barrier that you can see there was put in place, there was quite a bit of forklift damage that occurred on the panel. Instead of fixing the panel wall, they just put a crash barrier in place. The vapour barrier was broken, You can see some gaps in the steel there where warm air will be getting into the freezer space, and it caused the panel to delaminate. Facility management. This is really important for your cool stores and your cold stores, and it can be something that you guys can do in-house. So what can you guys do? First of all, it's pretty easy to see a vapor barrier when it's been compromised in a freezer or a chiller. You'll see the moisture or you'll see the ice inside the room. But sometimes that could be too late, so it is best to carry out your own regular inspections on insulated panel, but also on your doors. So things you need to look for: looking closely at the panel joints, looking at all your flashings on the external side of the insulated panel, surface penetrations, making sure there's no gaps so you can see any air coming through. Door gaskets, definitely check around all your doors, make sure your gaskets are sealing and there's no light coming through. Condensation, obviously a telltale sign of a vapor barrier issue on the inside of the room if you can see condensation running down your walls. Ice is a big one, of course. And panel and door damage, so don't just leave it, have a look yourself. If you can fix it yourself, great, otherwise get an expert in to have a look. And then underfloor heating, making sure that underfloor heating doesn't break down and it continues to stop any frost heave from occurring. We can also offer to carry this out. We can do regular inspections on cold storage facilities. This is a sort of standard process that we would normally follow. And one of the things that we can offer is thermal imaging on your cool stores and cold stores. So this can identify hot spots and potential vapor leaks that the normal naked eye would not normally see, because you can see inside the panel to see what's occurring. So key takeaways from my little chat today. Vapor barriers keep moist air out and protect people, products and your investment. Correct placement and the sealing of vapor barriers is vital, and regular inspection and maintenance for best results. Thank you very much for your time. Come and see us on booth 20.
Thanks for that, Nathan. I guess that vapor barriers are a little bit like leaks in the roof. You don't always know where they're getting in, but you certainly see where they're coming out. So that's great. It's an interesting, very interesting topic. Our next speaker is Raymond Fourie, from Cold Store Sales Manager of Kingspan. Please welcome Raymond.
It's very intimidating standing up in here. I'm going to try and get through as much as possible from what I want to say, and trustfully the South African accent doesn't throw you off a little bit. So what we want to just discuss from our end today is on the agenda is just a little bit, give you a little bit of a brief breakdown of why it's important to use cold store panels, then also just to give you a little bit of update what's happening in the New Zealand market. And then at the end of the day, a couple of technical solutions that people don't always think about or is really underestimated. So cold store demands more than ever. So what is key factors that's happening in the cold store, especially on the construction side of things? These facilities in itself has got to hit so many targets nowadays that we're talking thermal performances, high temperature food, temperature food sensitive areas, industrial freezing and storage, and this really needs sort of like rapid construction times also. So basically, time is money. Absolute hygiene, which is non-negotiable, and then robust safety measures that we have to put in place, and the long-term energy efficiency that we take note of. So this is not just like a one or two here thinking, this is long-term that we have to think. And where does these cold store panel factory engineer come into play? So this is where you have factory engineered high performance panels And at the core of the heart, especially with our panels, we've got what's used as a PR closed cell technology. So it's not just basic insulation that you've got, it's a high performance material that traps air very efficiently. This makes for super energy efficiency, and it also helps with, it's highly fire resistant. And leading versions like quad core does even better with regards. So it's actually pushing the boundaries a little bit with even better thermal performances, better fire ratings on it, and which is absolutely crucial for these high blast freezer type environments. And this is all backed up with independent data and testing that we can basically give. So the precision of the joints are actually crucial, and I think that's what I just wanted to quickly touch on, is that it's factory engineered to minimize the thermal bridging. So as Nathan was talking about earlier on the air tightness, to make sure that the constant temperatures is there, and it saves a lot of energy, and that just basically helps with regards to the condensation of it all, as well as any mold that grows on there for your hygiene facilities, and basically just to be able to be compliant on the hygiene, which is very critical. And also the testings that these products normally go through is very rigid, to be able to show the structural and the fire integrity that it's got. So they normally get awarded FM Global certification, and that is a global benchmark for the insurance companies altogether. If you think about it, it's like the highest stamp of independent approval you can get for any industrial components that goes onto a building. And as you know, these systems are normally deployed in a wide variety of facilities, and can be bespoke designs right through to retrofit. And all of these products in general is supported by data sheets, technical assistance from our end, as well as detailed drawings that you can implement. So the nice thing that, and something that we're very proud of in the New Zealand market at the minute, is that we are now producing and manufacturing from Christchurch, New Zealand, so which is a little bit of an extra leap from our end, to facilitate the longer lengths that everyone was hoping to get from our product. So we can go up to about 24-meter lengths nowadays. The other thing is the shorter lead times that that is always required on these rapid buildings that you want. So if anything goes wrong on a building, at least within the 2 week to 3 week period, we can have panel on site and getting it out a shorter lead time. Sorry. So yeah, and that also has now been complying with all the FM regulations that is there. So you be sure to have that peace of mind for the products going forward on that. Something that I wanted to speak about on a technical solution is more on the roofing side of things. So I've taken the likes of Ruakura in Hamilton. It was finished in 2024. This facility is a 18,000 square meter facility, which has got blast freezers inside there. It's got 30,000 pallets that it has to have temperature control over. And the crucial thing that they wanted to try and do is to have like a 6 Green Star rating on there, which is a tremendous commitment for sustainability. And using the cold store panel on our end, it's a true testimony to the technology in itself. So when we think about building, especially on thermal performance, we normally talk about walls, but the roof specifically is always taken, sorry, lost my track there, is always underestimated. Sorry. The roof is normally exposed to the majority of the elements that's out there, like your sunlight and so forth. So what the Kingspan roof liner and the membrane basically does and reacts to is, like, if you think about energy saving, this acts like a high reflective or reflectivity, if I want to call it that, where the sun basically is acting, not the sun, the membrane is acting like a giant mirror and reflecting the sun away from it. So basically at the end of the day, the cooling systems inside the facility doesn't need to work as hard to be able to keep the temperature at bay. So that's low costing and your energy there already for it. Not only that, it also acts as a waterproofing layer, which basically and which goes over your laps and your joints and so forth. And because of the wide area that it can actually lay over, you've got the securing of detailing on your penetrations, your pipes, your vents, your interfaces on the roof. So basically a robust umbrella that you basically have on the facility's roof in itself. And that causes because of you putting it on there, it's also having a lot lower maintenance on there, and you can get warranties of up to about 20 meters, 20 years, sorry. So with that also, you've got the cold store there, which has got the closed cell PR solution inside the core. Now just a little bit on the closed cell in itself. Closed cell means that it doesn't really trap any water, absorb any water on there. So a lot of times when people design a structure for a building, especially on the roof, they don't always take in consideration what if water gets trapped inside the panel, for example, and that normally has ice buildup. And over the time frame and over a couple of years, you're going to have a lot of weight with regards to the ice buildup that's inside there, and that could have potential problems with regards to leakages or bowing of stuff. So that's something that's just to take in consideration, especially with the membrane protecting that from the rain and all of that sort of altogether. So what is the shift in the market nowadays is something called the dark cold storage. So this is something that's starting to rapidly come into New Zealand that we've seen. And for those that don't know what a cold storage is basically a fully automated facility operating with minimal to no human involvement. So basically the lights can literally be off, and that's hence the word dark is in there. Because robots and automated systems don't really need any lights to be able to operate there. So you can literally, in some cases, have the lights switched off, which is basically also another energy saving that you can have on that side in itself. Now these buildings normally tend to go in the region of up to 35 meters and plus, and we've seen a couple now in the industry being detailed as 40 to 45 meters in height. So it's in the areas that it normally goes into, specifically because it's close to a lot of consumer areas, we don't have a lot of land space. The best way to build is to build up. And then these get integrated with structural racking systems in the building design, supporting panel-based construction with minimal internal framing. So building upwards to save space of the location, especially close to consumers in that high density area. If we think about why, and sorry, just checking I'm on the right slide, checking why is it important in New Zealand nowadays is I think it's more on the growth of the supply demand, the constraints of urban land availability and cost, and sometimes even the shortages of labour on the refrigeration side and the logistics side of things. All these factors drive high demand, more efficient, more automated, and future-proof, which makes the dark cold storage a lot more attractive. And Kingspan supports these innovations with panel systems that's designed for tall structures and low temp, and leveraging on local but global experience. From a technical side, from our side, basically, there's a lot of technical data sheets, CAD drawings, technical information that we can provide. So when it comes to a design from the beginning to the end, we'll be able to assist, whether it's to help with building compliance or just be able to integrate whatever CAD drawings we've got into the system. We can maybe facilitate that. And not only that, because we've got a global network, if something works in a different way, we've always got an idea of how to bring it into New Zealand and be able to help you there. So as we go, let's build together. Kingspan is now better positioned being in New Zealand to be able to help, and let's build a smarter, safer and more sustainable system together. Done. I stuffed up there. Did I? No, I don't think so. Oh, that is. Sorry, it's me.
Thank you. No worries. Okay, thanks for that, Raymond. Our next speaker is Jacob Kappa, General Manager of Allguard Safety. Please welcome Jacob.
Thank you, Bruce, for the introduction. Much appreciated. Today I'm going to share with you how companies like yours are embracing technology and process improvement like our EMU portal to reduce soft costs with their uniform and PPE spend. So we all know that in business there are two types of costs that you can control. Those that you can control, such as fuel and utilities, and there's those that you can't. And this is where embracing technology is the right thing to do. But that doesn't mean that we embrace technology in all parts of our life. I mean, I'm not too keen on my fridge ordering barbecue sauce and milk on my behalf. Sorry. When it comes to uniforms and PPE, there are 3 areas that you can control costs. Firstly, in how it's ordered. Secondly, in how it's distributed. And thirdly, in how it's monitored and reported. And we can show you how easy it is to order using technology, but for now I'll just show you how you can control the costs. The time that it takes to order and reorder uniform and PPE, this is an admin cost, and you can control this. So let's address one of the admin costs of uniform and PPE ordering, and that is the distribution of it to your staff. So some anecdotal feedback that we received from a New Zealand-owned logistics company with 600 plus employees, and this is a real life example. They used to have 2 admin employees spending about 3.5 hours each of their time distributing uniform orders to between 60 and 80 people at a time. By partnering with All Guard Safety and using our Work Kit initiative, they reduced the man hours spent on the handing out from 7 hours combined down to 1 hour, and that was just for 60 staff. So let's start doing the maths and working out some cost savings here. For example, the 2 admin staff are paid on average $32 an hour times 7 hours equals $224. The $224 say times 20 orders, and this is taking into account for replacement uniform for existing staff, uniform and PPE for new hires, or replacement uniform for natural attrition. It's nearly $4,500 only in direct labour costs. Comparing that to 1 person to distribute, taking an hour to hand out, so there's 1 admin staff person at $32 an hour, 32 times $20, 20 orders is only $640. So that example right there is an 85% saving in direct labour costs. And remember, these are costs that we can use technology and process improvement to control. So who here in the crowd works in a business that has embraced new technology projects in the last 3 years? Can we have a show of hands? Great. So there are 2 pathways that a business can go down with technology and process improvement. The first, your business puts together a task force internally to review your technology and processes and make changes yourself, or you partner with suppliers who they themselves are making the technology and process improvements, and you leverage off their investment and their risk and their know-how. So my experience in dealing with customers like you is using Excel spreadsheets, for example. There's confusion and inconsistency. People build Excel spreadsheets that humans need to analyse. Each piece of software like Excel is relatively easily hackable for those that know how to do it. Not only is there potential privacy concerns, but also may be blocked from accessing spreadsheets if they become corrupted. Everybody potentially has a different version of Excel installed on their PC, and if in the unfortunate event the person that's running the spreadsheet leaves the company, you potentially can lose access to the information, therefore it's lost. The second common mistake we often find is that there are severe lack of controls. So there's potentially employees who use the systems to save themselves money on clothing, but then there's also those that take the chance and try their luck. There's also too much subjectivity or gut feel, and this not only wastes time, but it wastes money as well. People going completely off script and ordering what they please, and also it's impossible to confidently predict future spend as the business grows or shrinks. And the third big area is controlled wastage from inaccurate or no record keeping. So who here thinks they've fallen foul to one of those things in the last 3 years? Have a show of hands. Good. So this conference is obviously about embracing new technologies. So let me show you 4 ways that our clients have used technology and process improvements when partnering with All Guard Safety. Firstly, businesses want control of costs, especially in these tight economic times. What an ordering portal like ours allows you to do is to control costs. An ordering portal like ours allows you to control costs by role and by employee. Secondly, controlling individual branch costs. So yes, we understand that each business is unique and they potentially want the flexibility of what staff have the authority to order what products, for what role and for what employee. So what an ordering portal can do is set hierarchies of authority. So here's an example of one. The admin costs are controlled at a head office level. The branch administrators can order and the national approver can approve, reject or amend the order. So in this example, the branch manager at branch B, for example, submits an order for 3 of his team members made up of a truck driver and 2 storemen. The central approver receives an email notification that branch B has placed an order for approval. In his downtime, he can log in and approve the order, and this can be done all within 60 seconds. It will then come straight through to Allguard for processing, and once it's received, the team will action this and get it out the door and dispatched. There's another example of hierarchies of ordering. So an employee is requesting an order to his team leader, and the team leader can then approve, reject or amend the order and send it through. So in this example, for example, Raj and John submit the orders to Terry. She gets an email notification of these order requests. Again, in her downtime, she can log in, approve these all within 60 seconds. As soon as they're approved, they're sent through to Allguard. The team action, get out the door so John and Raj can keep warm and dry and stay productive. Thirdly, our portal is truly client-specific and branded ordering platform or an online catalogue. With an agreed catalogue of items shown, there is the ability to include restrictions around products, allowances and ordering frequency, to name a few. Lastly, let's look at transparency and reporting. So from a national level, what an ordering portal will allow you to do as a national HR, procurement or health and safety manager is in real time drill down and see the total uniform costs per person and also the total spend per category. So admin soft costs for ordering, handing out and reporting on uniform and PPE are controllable. So by using a portal like ours, this allows you to rein in the costs. So come and speak with Logan and myself at stand 1 and we'll be able to show you behind the scenes with the portal. Thank you for your time. It's been greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Jacob. Please keep those questions coming in. It's good to see them up there. Our next speaker is Robbie McGanity, Sales of Interlogic Limited. Please welcome Robbie. Thanks, Robbie. All yours.
Thanks, Bruce. Okay. So where WMS meets automation. So I hope everybody's hangover is sort of disappearing now, getting ready for round 2, or 3 actually, some people might. So here's a picture of a penguin, try and get everybody's attention. And we call him Happy Feet because he knows exactly where to go in the warehouse. He's not lost. He's got voice-activated picking. It tells him exactly where to go in the warehouse. He doesn't have a sore neck trying to find things. He's got high vis, so he's safe. And he's doing batch picking. You can see there he's got multiple fish. Doesn't have to carry one fish in his beak. Yeah, that's that. So I'm Robbie, as introduced, from Interlogic, one of the sales guys there. Been there a year now. I'm into endurance, kind of adventure sports, and really living the Kiwi dream. MPI, so everyone knows what it's like dealing with MPI, the challenges there. We've got a couple of experts in our company that really help us out with that. But some of the unique challenges, right, we're seeing in cold storage, and I think a lot of other speakers kind of touched on this, so it's definitely a consistent theme. And kind of walking around this morning as well, some of the booths, it's the same things we're hearing, right? Real estate is getting more expensive. and it's harder to find, particularly in the ports, so we need to make the most out of that space. Traceability and compliance as well, getting more challenging, more competition from overseas. Energy cost as well, the consumption's going up. Sorry, I keep touching that. Yeah, the energy, right, we're using lots of energy in cold storage. So we're seeing really cool things like solar panels. The experts I've spoken to this morning said it's actually the installation is the easy part. It's maintenance of solar panels, right, once they're up on the roof. How do you keep them clean? And why are we doing all this, right? It's for temperature control and product integrity. So we want to keep all that food and pharmaceutical stock. We want to keep it good quality. So what is warehouse automation? So we hear lots about AI and it's the future. Well, we think it's actually the present now. So we can think of AI as really the brain across all the technology within the warehouse. So we've got things like hardware, your scanners, software. There's more and more software that we're using, processes, robotics now, and people. So how do we combine all that and make sure it's all integrated and actually helping us, right? Well, that's AI, and that's the brain in the warehouse, because it saves brain power as well. We don't have to think about everything as much. And the outcome then is intelligent, predictive, proactive, smart decisions in real time. So remember the clicker here, Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is always the coolest. That's why we work in cold storage. We remember that in Top Gear. I think everyone remembers that. Show of hands, everyone remember Top Gear, yeah? Yeah, most people. So we want to make, again, the most out of the space, right, the real estate. So we're seeing really cool things like high-density storage, AGV, AMR. Probably heard lots about that, but I like to kind of give you a little bit of just an explanation of what the difference is, because sometimes they're thrown around as the same thing, but really AGV is following a path, a magnetic strip, sometimes a grid. And then the AMRs, they're your Rumbas that are running around the warehouse. Some are not bumping into each other, going under tables and racking. And even things now, conveyor belts and rollers. Technology's been around for a while, but it really can save you a lot of time in warehouses. And it's all capable as well. In Sub-Zero, we heard dark storage as well earlier. So we're kind of running dark sites as well. So my island of technology. This is a theory that our managing director, Les, came up with. So my island of technology, and it's really looking at, right, all these different technologies we have, and often they're not integrated, or there's a bit of an interface, but it's not really talking to it, and it's not helping us. So we see orders come down through the business, it's sort of rolled across or sent over to a scanner, hopefully, maybe a picking paper sheet, and you've got lots of people running around, but we don't really have visibility of where that order is in the queue, because we've got tens of orders coming through. And the reason why that's a bit of a challenge is that, say, an urgent order comes through, if we want to bump that to the front or the top of the queue, how do we do that, right? If we don't have visibility, we don't know where our people are. And then we're just kind of left waiting, sitting in the office sort of for that information to be rolled back. Is the idea there? So automation, so it is a journey, it's a lot of planning goes into it, lots of implementation, and it's really, this slide is about, how do we get away from my island of technology and then kind of move on to a real-time highway, and it's strategy, right? So we look at current operations, see what you've got in place currently, because every warehouse is different, define some clear objectives. For example, the ones we see a lot, right? Reduce labour costs, increase order processing. So it's that whole saying, right? Do more with less that we're all hearing. I thought a couple of examples then, like ROI, something like voice. So the Penguin with the headset, you might have seen the demo as well from Honeywell. If you haven't, definitely come over and see it. If you want one more coffee as well today. But it's a really fast ROI on that voice headset, less than 12 months. And even a brand new WMS can be less than 2 years, really, that turnaround. And again, yeah, it can be a phased approach, so always with a long-term goal, though, long-term. Some considerations as well. We're always looking for scalability, for growth. Again, integration with existing systems. With any type of automation or AI, we don't have to throw out everything and start from scratch. We can if you want, or if it's a brand new site, but often we'll go, okay, you're happy with your TMS, happy with ERP, let's just find some automation around that. Vendor selection and local support, again, speaking to a lot of people yesterday with challenges of dealing with overseas vendors, suppliers. Look, even if it's Australia, right, 2 hours behind, it's just 2 hours is not good enough, right? Warehouses are split second. We see suppliers from America, Europe, some suppliers in the UK, right, and it's 12 hours behind. It's just not good enough. We want local support, local knowledge, and it's just good, right, to have people that we can actually meet in person, especially at these kind of events, sort of belly to belly. And then change management and staff training. So often the hardest part in any type of technology project. Sorry, keep pressing that. So the idea is that when we have local people that can actually go and visit the warehouse and talk with your staff in person, that change management and adoption can really be a lot smoother, because we know people have been doing the same process for 10 or 20 years and they're like, why change now? And it's like, well, if you don't change, you're kind of being left behind. So this is where we want to get to, a real-time highway where information is flowing in real time between all the systems, all the hardware that we've talked about, so that we can make real decisions, right, in real time, and the best decision for your warehouse. The AI legal considerations. Is there any lawyers here? No, didn't think so. So I can talk freely, say whatever I want. No one's listening. So is it an opportunity or a threat? Well, it's kind of both, and it can be a strength or a weakness as well if we're using it or not using it or using AI incorrectly. But a couple of things to think about, like human rights, are people being treated fairly? Privacy, you know, AI often relies on big data and personal information, but it can be easily anonymized, so you're safe. Copyright, probably a big one for us, being a software company. We write a lot of code using AI, so you really got to make sure you're using like a paid version and you're storing that content safely, right? So when I asked one of our software engineers, Hank, about this conference, and I said, oh, what should I say? You know, it's about the future of AI. And he said, Robbie, it's not the future, it's the present, and actually it's the past. We've been using AI for years to write code and change language. So things like that used to take 3 days would take 3 hours now. Contract arrangements, so just kind of to say again, obviously speak to your lawyer about this, but a lot of the old contracts from 10 years ago, right, they might reference a fax line, but they won't talk about AI, okay? And then just to be transparent as well, be confident, you know, we're using AI, tell people you're using it. Anyone else? Anyone in the audience using AI currently? Anyone not using it? I don't know, everyone's using it somehow. So again, yeah, strategic goals that we sort of mentioned, traceability, you know, New Zealand made, we're getting more competition from overseas, you know, seeing back of frozen veg, right, it's been imported from China, so we want to keep that good quality, keep it all local. We know we've got the best growing conditions in New Zealand, similar to Ireland, right, green grass, good mountains. And then Source Gardener Group, so you know that I haven't just made all of this up, maybe some of it, used AI to get some of it as well, but I'll leave you with a couple of facts. So by 2028, 80% of warehouses will deploy some form of automation. By 2030, 1 in 20 supply chain managers will manage robots rather than humans. Maybe it's 1 robot to 10 humans, but that ratio is going to change, right? Eventually it could be 50-50 or more. So that's me. If anyone wants one more coffee, I'll be over at the coffee stand. And yeah, time for a beer nearly as well, I think. Cool. Very good.
Thanks for that, Robbie. Our next speaker is Andrew Suckling from Alti Group. All yours, Andrew. Please welcome Andrew.
Right, we're going to cover off 3 things today. Everyone's puffed and ready for that coffee and probably the beers. Cover off around dock loading, importance of if you're not loading with the dock leveler, you should be, and if you are 24/7 loading containers, you probably should think about automation of that loading. Got a little video about AI safety in the warehouse, and then just wanted to cover off very briefly on the importance of monitoring your defrost cycles. So I'll kick off with a quick video. Cool, so as you can see, we've come quite a long way on the loading scene since we started shipping stuff around the countryside. But I just wanted to run through some facts here. We did some case studies. Container loading can take between 12 to 180 minutes a container. You can use between 2 and 4 people and between 1 and 4 forklifts. We had a case study with a container leveler system similar to what you got on the screen there, but prior to that they were loading into the rear of trucks with forklifts. So the truck would come in, open up the doors, they would forklift in and pallet trolley it to to load the container. That reduced that loading cycle from 45 minutes to 12. It dropped 2 people and 2 forklifts off it, as well as making it a lot safer. So that was 2.6 hours on that one. That was an interesting one because I think currently they can do up to 40 containers a day. So we're looking at 105 hours per day. I trust I got the sums right, Stephen, because this is Quarry Road. So I thought I should have come and double checked it, but that was the sort of numbers we had at the time. So some massive savings to be, if you're not loading with a container or with a leveler, have a think about it. This is the one we did recently. It was a export MPI container dock. They went from 75 minutes to 20 minutes by installing a dock leveler. They dropped 1 person and 1 forklift out, so some pretty massive savings there. This is, I guess the title of my slide was the missing link in the automated cold chain, is that if you're looking at serious container loading, like you're loading 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it is worth looking at potentially automating the whole process, so that if you've got an automated cold store, you could run the pallets right out to be staged in front of a dock. On average, it takes about 3 minutes to load with 1 person. So that was just what I want to cover off. A few options there, but there's some massive savings to be had in that space. AI, I thought I'd drop one in here because this is all about future technology. Quick little video. So this is an AI camera picking up on a forklift. So it's picking up people. And as it runs along, it can also pick up speed signs, so it can slow the forklift down. You see it, speedo there. So as it turns into an aisle, for instance, you can set preset speeds. Also used to trigger the likes of the projectors that Vanguard have got over there. Can be tied into that sort of system. So it gives you a bit of an idea how AI is advancing. I know some of our clients are actually using it in their warehouse for forklift safety. So if a person gets within so many metres of a forklift, it'll trigger an incident, and that can be, be a learning opportunity. So yeah, a few options there. So the other thing I want to talk about was what you can do about your defrost cycles. Now, clearly, got a couple of pictures here of some air handling doors or air handling solutions that we've installed. Now, what we've found with some of the solutions we do, like we might put a new high-speed door in, and then you need to ensure that your refrigeration, whoever's looking after your refrigeration, also pairs that up with what you're doing with your defrost cycles. I'll give you an example. This unit here, once a door system was put on, it eliminated the ice, but what actually happened is they put some smart technology into their defrost sensors, and it went from about twice a day to over a week in this particular freezer. But those savings would have been missed if it was just on a timed defrost. So I'm not a refrigeration expert, I just happen to spend a lot of time trying to solve icy freezers, but there's some serious opportunities there. We can reduce defrost cycles up to 70%, which leads to a whole bunch of other flow-on benefits for your cold store. So I thought I have to...
Since the door's been installed, we have had no issue with ice or snow. We've reduced our defrost cycles on the room. So the product in there was in better condition. So it's increased our capacity to bring more product out and or put more product away. It's all really, really good stuff for us.
Sorry I couldn't help throwing that in there, so thanks Coolpack for the work, but that's been a great result. So you can look in at some of these applications, we can get ROI as low as a year, typically 2 to 3 years, but it's just, I guess the point I was trying to make is that try and look at your cold store holistically. A lot of people jump to grunting up the refrigeration. Doors, we always say, obviously we sell doors right, but that's where all the moisture comes in. Nail that, and it can really set your cold store up. So that's me. Thanks for your time, and don't forget to go out and enter the draw in the trailer there for the barbecue, and chat to the guys outside. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Andrew, for that. Now, this is the point where hopefully you pile up lots of questions for us to ask these folks. And I'll begin with, I guess, Nathan and Raymond. Give us your thoughts on what the pros and cons of a shade roof design rather than exposed panel, given exposure of panels to elements.
Thanks. You probably need to be talking to guys like Apollo and the builders, really. But for me, in my experience, shade roofs are good to have a space for your services. So you've got steel structure, roof over the top, tin cladding, and then your suspended ceiling underneath the roof structure, which allows enough space for services. But it's really important to make sure that you have that space ventilated, because condensation can form in that space, and you don't need condensation in that area because you will get corrosion on the top of the panels. That's one way of looking at it.
Thank you. Okay, what solutions would you recommend for fixing leaky insulated panel roofs on an existing building? Perhaps we could get Raymond to give us some thoughts on that one.
Is that for the ceiling?
Yeah, what would you recommend for fixing leaky insulated roof panels on an existing building? My thoughts are perhaps a membrane. What are your comments on covering the whole building with a membrane, or do you have any other solutions?
It's a difficult question because at the end of the day, it all depends on how the build was installed in the beginning time. So we'll have to basically, because we've got a technical person that will go to site, inspect the building, and then basically recommend what we can do thereafter. So it all depends on variables at the time and when the technical engineer goes to site and have a look at all of those things. And then he'll recommend basically what can be done, what cannot be done. Because there's different variables that can actually happen on a roof, especially when it starts leaking. Yeah.
Okay. Panel design has developed, however, panel sealant has been a weakness in design. What developments are there in sealing technology to go with panel? Well, you've got the microphone in your hand, Raymond. Could you have a crack at that one?
Yeah, no worries. So on the sealant side of things, we do our own testing with a specific sealant, like for example Hilti and so forth. But when it goes to design and it gets to the builder, in most circumstances the builder will decide what they're going to use as a sealant. So it's a little bit difficult if they don't follow what the manufacturer is preferred on the building versus what they feel is a better alternative, for example. So, but with that being said, the likes of Hilti and Seeker, they constantly do a lot of testing on their products and re-engineer some of the stuff and bring new stuff in that we're always being made aware of. And when we do test, we test with the newer product to make sure that it actually suits the panel before we tell clients that they can utilize that. So,
yeah.
It is the biggest risk because you really only get a 5-year warranty out of sealants, especially when it's exposed to UV. So it's really important that with your cool stores and cold stores that if your sealant is exposed to UV, you really need to be performing inspection and maintenance on those every at least 5 years. So that's really important.
Yeah, I guess that comes back to the suggestion of a membrane. What about the thought of eliminating that membrane, that seal, and putting a membrane over the top, because they're guaranteed for up to 30 years.
Yeah, so Raymond touched on that with the roof liner and membrane option. So that is an option that builders are taking these days with an insulated panel and a single ply TPO adhered to the panel skin, which if you wanted to retrofit that, you can do that as well.
Okay, thank you. I guess another one close to our hearts, cool store owners. Have either of you got any thoughts about trying to get the insurance premiums down on people who have panel buildings of any description? I think that our experience is the insurers have a phobia of fires in cool stores, and we think that they perhaps over-exaggerate the risk. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate when Kingspan and Bondor and even Matecno, we do FM testing, right? And that is hopefully going to help us and help you guys with the insurance. But they do group us all under the same category of a plastic cord panel. And we really have to fight to prove that we do meet the high expectations of FM. So if I was you and you are not getting anywhere with your insurance providers, whatever panel it is, go and talk to that supplier and get them to provide you with all their testing and all their certification, and get them to talk to the insurance person directly.
Okay.
Just from our side, though, is with it, we also, from a manufacturing point of view, do speak to the insurance companies and also let them know what testing has been done, etc., to be able to comply with their FM standards and what they want on there. There's also something that people also need to take into consideration when it comes to FM. You've got an FM design building, which then at the end of the day gets designed by an FM engineer and so forth, which no one really wants to go and do. So insurance companies just want to have a product to have an FM certification on there to comply with what they want on there, in a general fact, yeah.
Okay, I think we've covered quite a lot on panels. I'd just like to try one to Andrew about how uniform do pallets have to be for the automated container loading experience with meat products?
Cool, got that. Reasonably uniform. There obviously has to be a pallet on the bottom, on the base, on that design. But it depends a little bit on how tight you're loading in the container. What happens when you load those systems up is they actually align the conveyor, the sliding slip sheet, if you like, and the truck. They actually line them up with lasers first, so that they're not just randomly ramming them into the container. They actually line everything up. So I'd probably have to default probably to the specialists in Europe on that, if you want to go a bit further. If that helps.
Okay, here's a question for Allguard. What pathway do you think PPE will go down for cold storage, heated versions or fibre technology?
Yeah, so there are some options out there with heated clothing already, and we have had some prototypes with heated gloves as well. It's still in the very early stages of development though. Hope that helps.
Here's a good one for you. Is there any clothing being designed for women in cool stores?
Yes, we do have access to a range of women's fit freezer clothing as well.
That's good. Yeah, another one for LT. Is there anyone in New Zealand you're aware of with a fully automated container loading system as shown in your presentation?
Not aware of them in the cold storage. I understand Coca-Cola has something in Auckland, but I know there's a number of them in Australia and then through Europe.
Can an automated container loader be used in reverse? That'd be challenging.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Yes, it can, but the problem with that is it normally has to be a custom-built trailer, and it normally works best in a shuttle situation where you're shuttling between sites. And you can either have trailers with rollers in them that plug up to your building and they automate, or there's another system where it has a series of slots in the floor, and there's like 4 fingers come out and then raise up and then pull your load out. So yes, it can be done, but not for just random containers that you're importing.
Okay, thanks. Retrofitting solar panels to establish PIR and polypanel roof designs, what are the maintenance and penetration issues to manage? Can you pass the... Oh, you got it.
So just on the penetration side, most of the times when you put in a solar panel, it needs to go onto a structure to be able to handle the weight. So the panel itself cannot handle the weight on top of it in the structure, so it needs to go onto the structure in itself. And then normally, as we suggest, is to put a membrane on top to secure the detailing of any penetrations and so forth. I don't know.
If it's retrofitted, you really need to make sure that your structure is suitable, because it may not have been taken into consideration during the design phase. So really get in touch with the structural engineer on the project, making sure that the additional weight will be okay with the existing structure.
Okay. Thanks, Nathan. Automated vehicle loading is an exciting technology for fleet design. How effectively does it handle New Zealand's diverse transport fleet designs?
Well, for a so-called first world country, we've probably got the most diverse truck fleet in the world. Primarily designed for either dedicated trailers and or containers. So containers are standard, they're an easy loading, but no, that's probably restricted to containers in the main. If you've ever tried to do a truck survey for your project, it's just about impossible if you're going wider than a captive fleet.
Okay, here's a curly one. Not quite sure where this one's going. In other countries where ambient temperatures can be below freezer on the outside, do both sides of the wall require vapour guards or vapour barriers? Not a problem in Whangarei, I can assure you.
Even in New Zealand this happens, right? So most of the time the temperature inside is always colder than the outside. So you're always going to have it on the warm side of the panel. Even in other countries, it's probably going to be very similar. I know in a freezer you should never have a vapor barrier on both sides. The internal skins need to be open. So, sorry, the internal joints never get sealed up. It's always the external skins. In a chiller, it's not so much of a risk. In ambient temperature environments, there's no issue whatsoever. You don't really need a vapor barrier for an ambient temperature environment.
Yeah, here's an interesting one. During the building process, how do you ensure that a vapor barrier is not compromised? I guess what you don't find out until you turn the freezer on. What protocols and controls are in place to de-risk future damage? Yeah, I had just a personal experience on this one. We replaced a vapor barrier in the roof of our cool store, and I spent most of those 2 weeks standing up there, seeing these guys with their boots on, with a plastic vapor barrier, making sure they didn't walk on it, because they can walk on it and no one even knows at the time. We certainly know when the job's finished, because the ice starts forming on the inside.
It's something that's starting to come into our industry with new builds. And I'm liking it to similar to a CA room. So CA rooms are always pressure tested. And then so with the new freezers and chillers that are being built these days, they're almost looking to use some form of like CA room testing to pressurize the room, see what pressures are still there after their test. So that's one thing that could be incorporated during the build phase. There's some sort of...
How would that work with the door rubber seals?
Yeah, so they're designed to stop, keep the pressure in the room.
Okay.
They're part of the vapor barrier. So, yeah, if everything's all sealed up, then doing some sort of pressure testing could help with finding vapor barrier issues.
Okay.
Got to have a good door supplier, Bruce.
Hey, look, I'm sorry, I've already asked this top question. Okay. I think this question's already been answered. What is the longest length panel can be? I think it's about 24 metres, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's on our end where it's 24 metres. I'd say because it's coming from Christchurch, we would say on a good length would probably be here in about 17, 18. Not, otherwise you'll probably need to have some vehicles to accompany the panel to go to wherever it needs to go. But it can be done. So yeah, 24 metres, and it can go in anywhere in between the North and South Island.
27.
That's all good. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. What is KSN 1100 CS compared with KSN 1100 CS? Just a code mark for the membrane combination, or is TPO a separate Kingspan product?
So both is, one is from Australia, one is from New Zealand. The N is for New Zealand, and the KS 1100 CS is from Australia. When we basically took over the factory and started making Kingspan, we had some of our engineers coming from overseas and redesigned the PR that needs to go there to make sure that it is a Kingspan PR. But so basically everything else is the same except for the skins, which is now basically a New Zealand steel skin, colour steel, and versus the one from Australia being colour bond. So we can still utilise both colours from either or, Australia or New Zealand. But yeah, it's just one is New Zealand and the other one is now Australia.
Okay, I'd like to urge people to perhaps ask a few questions that Robbie might be able to answer. As a fellow Irishman, the name of Mulligan, I think you're being a bit left out, so please get to your phones, you guys.
I'll ask the one, answer the one about bald man.
Sorry?
I'll answer the one about bald man.
Okay.
I think everyone knows bald men are more virile. and it's caused by testosterone. But I think the real question is, the person that asked that question, are they brave enough to raise their hand? There you go. Bald men are more brave.
Well done. You didn't feel like you'll be missed out too much, so you prepared that one for a wee while, I think. Yeah, I guess there's one there. Are panels still a fire hazard? If so, are there non-combustible versions yet? Well, I thought PIR was non-combustible, but perhaps I got that wrong.
So majority of your older EPS is like real, like a fire hazard, if I want to call it that, in the sense of if it does burn, it's going to start become like a liquid fire, if I want to call it that. But the likes of X-Flame and PR has got like fire resistance on there and has been tested specifically for. That's why it goes through all these rigorous testings to get FM certification on there. But with regards to a non-combustible one, we have a product called K-Rock, which is mineral fibre, and I think you guys also have some mineral fibre panel that is also non-combustible. So it is available. The only difference is that you can probably only use most of those non-combustibles in an ambient temperature environment and not always in freezers or chillers because of the thermal properties that it needs.
Yeah, it's unfortunate with PIR and X-Flame. It is a plastic cord panel, so it is combustible. But the mineral wool, rock core, and what we call Volcore, that is... Sorry, I said it the wrong way. PIR and X-Flame is plastic cord and it is combustible. Rock wool is non-combustible. But you're right, yeah, we can't use non-combustible rock wool Volcore in a freezer or a chiller.
Okay, thank you.
Just on that though, there has been instances where it has the mineral fibre has been used inside a cold store or freezer, but it was also used with a cold store panel, and that was only when it was at a boundary where there was fire ratings over and above 3 hours required. So most of the mineral fibre technology can go up to about 4 hours, with fire ratings and so forth. So that's the only reason why it was used in that specific scenario in a cold store, but it's not a general thing that gets used.
Okay. When designing a new facilities, at what point should designers, clients engage with companies like Interlogic? Oh, you were asleep.
Too many gins. So what was the question again?
Here, well, I'll do it again. Look, you don't break your neck. When designing new facilities, at what point should designers, clients engage with companies like Interlogic?
Oh, yes, okay. Yeah, as soon as possible. Preferably yesterday, but today. We speak to people at all stages of it. Something like Cardinal, the Drury site, was years in the making, a relationship that had been going for 10 plus years. So those kind of projects take forever, right? Often it's a bit late. But yeah, we're always open to chatting, and I think the earlier the better.
Okay, I think we've just about run out of questions, unless anybody else has got any more. So we'll wind up at this stage. Right. We're now breaking for 45 minutes. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you shortly. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Good fun.